AI for when it really is rocket science, our launch of Agent Composer here at Contextual AI. And now I'm going to introduce our presenters. Great. So I'm pleased to be joined by our Chief Evangelist, Rajiv Shah, and I'll let Rajiv introduce himself here in a moment, as well as Kiela, our CEO and co-founder. So Raj, I'll turn it over to you to do a quick intro, and then you can hand it over to Douwe.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for joining the webinar today. So I'm Rajiv Shah. Besides hosting these webinars, I also spend a lot of time on the technical side with our customers, helping them solve their AI problems with that. Now, I've been in the AI space for a while. I've worked at places like Hugging Face, at Snowflake, and used to work inside of companies at places like State Farm and Caterpillar as well. So thank you all for joining.
Hi, folks. I'm Douwe Kiela, CEO and co-founder of Contextual. Started the company almost 3 years ago now. So before this, I was the head of research at Hugging Face, and before that, spent 5 years at Facebook AI Research, where one of the things I'm well known for is the RAG paper, where we originated that idea. So welcome to this webinar. I will be doing the beginning, and then I'll be handing over to Raj in a bit. So just a reminder. If you're not familiar with the company, what we do, Contextual AI, we are really focused on building, as the name suggests, the context layer for AI. So what that means is that we're trying to build this context layer to help especially advanced industries unlock the full potential of AI on top of their own data. So it's not general purpose, it's really specialized to work with your data. And the way we make that happen and the way we ensure that we are better than everybody else is through our applied AI research. So we spend a lot of time making sure that all of the components we use in our context layer are state of the art using our advanced research. So that's who we are as a company. So the agenda for this webinar is as follows. We're going to first be talking about the challenge. So why is it so hard to get AI to work on technical tasks specifically, which is what we're focused on with this launch as well. Then we'll be talking about the Agent Composer. Raj will do a demo. We'll do a platform deep dive, and then talk about next steps and open up for Q&A. So again, welcome. It's great to have you all here. All right, so the title, as John said, of this webinar, of this launch, is around rocket science. So why did we choose rocket science as a theme here? We think it's a great example of something that is really hard. If you can do rocket science, you can do anything, right? Or as the saying goes, it's not rocket science. That's really meant to indicate sort of how hard something can be. And in this case, we're trying to make sure that these very difficult technical domains are also accessible by AI. And so what we're really trying to do for you all is making sure that you can build agents in a way where it's not rocket science, so where you can build them very easily and make sure that they can solve these very difficult problems at the level of accuracy that you need to actually productionize AI. So let's jump into what a rocket scientist does then. Let's say a jet propulsion engineer is a nice example of a rocket scientist. What does a jet propulsion engineer actually do? Well, they spend a lot of time analyzing and documenting test results that come from the actual jets or propulsion systems that they're designing or testing, looking at prior art to improve their designs, generating test procedures, preparing additional materials. So that's a sort of complex workflow that you would do if you're a rocket scientist. So analyzing those log files, so that's really only the first step in what we just talked about in the life of a jet propulsion engineer. Even that in itself can be incredibly complicated. So you would have to collect the logs, establish context, do a bunch of different things, investigate anomalies, document findings. So this in itself is an 8-hour task. And it's very, very complicated. So wouldn't it be nice if you could solve something like that with AI? And it's a really good example of an expert task. So AI right now is incredibly useful across the board when it comes to general purpose tasks. So things like drafting emails, summarizing content, answering simple questions, customer service. So it's versatile, but the problem is that it lacks depth, right? So it doesn't really have context on your business and your data and all of the difficult things that you are really trying to solve. And funnily enough, most of the most valuable problems that you can solve, they tend to involve deep expertise, right? So what you want to have there is expert AI rather than general purpose AI. So AI that is really specialized for your domain and task. So that's what we focus on. So we do things like root cause analysis, very deep research on legal or financial domains, much more complicated search, planning, advanced technical support. So really trying to unlock that expertise that exists in your organization. So we thought we would just jump into a very quick demo just to give you a sense of what that would look like when you actually build an application on top of our platform. So going back to the Propulsion test engineer, if you go to demo.contextual.ai, you can see this demo live. And so what you would do is you would ask a fairly complicated question like this one here. So we just completed a test. The chamber pressure came in about a level lower than what we actually predicted. So what's going on? Help me figure out, right? So what you can see here on the right are the workflow steps where the agent is trying to figure out what's going on. So it's doing a lot of research. And so you can really look into that research and try to understand what it's doing. So the data that this sits on top of is actually quite complicated, right? So we have an inspection report, which is unstructured data. It's a complex layout. It's very hard to do. You can't just drop this into a ChatGPT and get the right answer. Then we also have a structured database here that has the actual test results. So this is again, not something you can just drop into a standard language model and hope for the best. You really need a specialized solution that leverages the expertise that you have here. So then once it's done the research, it produces the report here. And this report is very rich in information, and it's really doing deeper reasoning on top of those results. So it has used all of this information, has used all the different tools. So as you can see, it's run structured data queries. So it ran a SQL query against the database, and then is combining that with data from unstructured documents. Like you can see here, this is how we do the analysis. So very, very rich data all getting combined into novel insights for this propulsion test engineer to be better at their job. So that is just a very quick sort of sneak peek demo. Raj is going to give you a much more comprehensive demo in a bit, but hopefully that gives you a sense of the types of things you can build on top of our platform. So I think the key point to make here is that even the most powerful language models cannot be better than the context that they are given, right? So it really is about getting rich context into these models so that you can solve these expert problems. And of course, ChatGPT or other systems are really amazing, and you can drop documents in them and you can do great things with them. But when you have many documents, or when you have very complex documents, or when you have unstructured documents and structured data, things become much more complicated, right? And then on top of that, you have potential issues with hallucinations, which if you're in the tech industry can be incredibly expensive if you get something wrong. And then obviously customizing them is hard, and it's not enterprise ready to the grade that you would want to see if you're in a serious enterprise and if you're sensitive around things like intellectual property. So that's where we come in. We have an unlimited knowledge capacity, so you can attach as many documents as you like or as many structured data sources. We can ingest documents with very complex layouts, ingest structured data, and the agents you can build on our platform are much better than what you can build with DIY sort of open source solutions in terms of accuracy. So the accuracy out of the box will be much closer to the production grade accuracy that you would need to actually deploy this in the real world with your own customers. System is very easy to specialize, and it's really designed to be enterprise grade from day one. That's really what we've been focused on as a company from the beginning. So let's talk a little bit about context. Yeah, as the name of the company suggests, it's something we care very deeply about. The term context engineering is one of the big hype words right now. Everybody's really thinking about this big open problem after we've solved the intelligence problem. So how can we get language models to be good and smart? The next big open problem is the context problem. How can we give these smart things the right context so that they can deliver value and solve important problems? So The starting point here is, of course, a language model, right? So with a language model, it's essentially a black box. So you take an input query, you give it to a language model, and the language model gives a response. So the big limitation here is that this language model has a cutoff point in terms of the data that is trained on, and is trained on open web data. So it might not be trained on the data that you care about, maybe because that's your own internal company data that is not on the internet, and it's not on the internet for a reason, right? You want to protect that information. And since it has a cutoff point, it also goes out of date, right? So you want to have a language model have access to additional information outside of the training data that it was trained with. So the way you do that is you provide this information in what is called the context window of a language model. This context window has different things in it. So one thing would be the user prompt. So essentially the query you're asking it, or what your own customer is asking the system. Then you have the system prompt, and then you have the data from the document. Maybe it's a single document, so you can just put it in the context of the language model, the full document, and maybe access a few tools. So that context window, the question then becomes, if I have more data than I can fit into my context window, which is almost always the case in a serious enterprise, right? Even if you have a very large context window, you will still have more data than you can fit in there. And even if you could fit everything in there, your language model wants to focus on the most important things. So you want to be very careful with the context you provided and only give it the important pieces of information. So that's where RAG comes in, retrieval augmented generation. So what you do with RAG is you take the input query, the question that you're asking the system or the task you're giving it, and then in addition to just giving that query to the context window, you also run a retrieval pipeline to find relevant pieces of information. It could be entire documents, it could be sections of documents, or what people call chunks. You put that in the context window, and now you give that to a language model. So RAG has been around for a while now. It's a really great way to make sure that you can have this language model, but have it work on your data, even if it wasn't trained on that data. But RAG itself also has limitations. So the main limitation here is that it's very static. It's a single retrieval step. It's very hard to address complex queries. And obviously, complex queries tend to be more valuable and more useful to you, especially if you are working on a hard problem in a technical domain. So RAG has evolved recently into what we now call context engineering in the field. So this takes the idea of RAG a step further, where you have this dynamic object of the context, and you are constantly optimizing that context for the language model using things like tool calling, where retrieval is one of the tools that you can use. And this context is constantly getting updated with a language model that reasons on top of it. So this is really the way most advanced systems work now. So it's not old school static RAG anymore. It's much more dynamic, agentic context engineering, where RAG is still one of the key components. So retrieval is one of your most important tools, but you can do much, much more than that. And that's also what this launch is about. So the limitation with this approach, context engineering in general, is that this is actually very difficult to get right. So if you want to do this yourself, it will require significant engineering and very deep AI expertise to get to production quality for a single use case. And many of you are probably not interested in just a single use case. You want to solve 10,000 different use cases. So that's what we've really tried to build with the platform, is a way to help you not have to worry about these pieces, so you can worry about your own expertise and leveraging the institutional knowledge that exists in your enterprise. All right, so that's the challenge. And so we've introduced Agent Composer to really help address these challenges. So it's a new way to build expert AI systems very quickly with very high quality. So what is Agent Composer? It's a way to unlock AI productivity for complex tasks. So we have 3 different ways for you to build an agent, and you can do so very quickly using a very easy to use interface. And using this interface, you can build very high quality agents very quickly. Under the hood of this, we have a library of 40 plus different building blocks that are very powerful components that you need if you are building context engineering systems. So for advanced agents, you would stitch together these building blocks in different ways to make sure that they do exactly what you want them to do. And the final thing here is that we have the ability to combine static workflows, so where the steps are deterministic and have to happen in sequence, which is again very important for an enterprise. You don't want to have an agent that can just do whatever it wants. In some parts of the pipeline, you want to have full control over what has to happen. So we have a combination of static workflows with deterministic steps that can hand over to agentic components that are slightly less deterministic, and then go back into more static workflows in the end, so that you really have control over what the behavior of the system is. So let's look into the three different ways that you can build agents using Agent Composer. So the first way is using templates. So we've built a lot of very high quality starting point templates for you to work with. So the first one here is basic search. It's very fast. It's not the best possible quality, but there's a trade-off to make there, right? So if you have something that has to run live in a call center or on a website, you don't have infinite latency. You need to give an answer quickly. So that's where you would use something like basic search. Then we have agentic search, which is much more sophisticated in terms of the tools it can do and the queries it can handle. We do things like root cause analysis, where you can drop in a lot of different files, again, unstructured and structured, and then have the agent tell you essentially what is wrong, or testing different hypotheses in the same way that you would if you were an engineer. And then we have additional templates around deep research, workflow automation, sort of task execution, and structured extraction, where you can take complex documents and extract all the relevant pieces of information that you want in a structured way so that you can leverage that structured data later as a data scientist, for example, or as a part of your data engineering pipelines. So those templates are great starting points, but maybe you want to do something else. So the other thing that you could do here is you can describe the agent in natural language. So you can just say, I want to create an agent that searches through my company data. I wanted to answer complex questions. I wanted to do research in this particular way. I wanted to answer the question in this particular way. You can just describe in natural language. So this is also something that maybe your business users could use directly themselves, what you want the agent to do. And what will happen under the hood is that the system will automatically construct the agent for you in a way where it combines those building blocks that you need for context engineering, and in a way where that agent does what it's supposed to do. So we think that this is a really exciting new feature and something definitely worth trying out. And the final way here is if you want to start from scratch. So if you're really a power user here and you want to construct the graph of an agent using Agent Composer yourself, so how exactly those building blocks are combined with each other, you can do that. You can start from a blank canvas. Under the hood here, there's a YAML file that you could even edit directly if you want to go one level deeper still. So you have full control here over what this agent looks like and how it's supposed to behave. It's fully customizable. So all of these different components have their own settings that you can really customize to have them do exactly what you want it to do. So we think this is very powerful for you to work with and make sure that you get the highest possible accuracy for your solution. So with that, I'm going to hand over to my friend Raj, who will show you what that all looks like in action.
All right, so let's breathe a little life into all of this here, and let me walk you through this piece. So what I want to do today is, in a hands-on way, show you a couple of different demos of Agent Composer in action. We're going to start with an example where we're going to take advantage of these AI models that can do their planning, but pair it with some of the tools that we have in Contextual as well. We're going to use that to build kind of a very simple, explain it like I'm five, material science agent, where we're going to work with complex documents to do that. So that's going to be our starting point. And then I'm going to show you some of the more complex agents that we've built for kind of more sophisticated customers as well after that. So let's go ahead and kind of jump into the platform and get started here. So if you sign up for the platform, you'll be able to get a front door that looks something like this, where you'll see I haven't built any agents yet, and I'm going to get started. But kind of as Douwe mentioned, an important part of kind of building an agent is context. And the best context is bringing your information in. So if we move over to data stores are collections of documents. It's where you would host and bring your own information in. So if we go ahead and create a data store here, I just want to walk you through exactly what it would be. So I'm just going to create a data store. I could then drag and drop my PDF files, my Word docs, my PowerPoints right into the platform. We have APIs as well. So everything I'm showing you, we have a programmatic interface. So your developers will be quite happy working with the platform. But beyond that, we've also have a curated list of connectors. And what the connectors do is just make it a little bit easier when you're working with some of these applications, as well as you can bring along the entitlements or the permissions of those documents and have the platform follow that as well. And that can be very important when you have, for example, documents in a SharePoint that only certain people are allowed to use. Now, in the interest of time here, I've already got a preloaded data store here. You can see there's thousands of documents in this. There's lots of these are material science papers. We give you complete transparency into what's going on with these documents. So you'll see over here on the right is kind of the front page of a document. But then over here's the text. And what the text is we go through your PowerPoints, your PDFs, and we extract out the relevant text because we need this if we want to be able to search, if we want to ask questions and answer on that. Now, as we do this, we also work with complex tables and figures. So take a look here where we have a complex graph. We'll pass this through one of our vision language models that creates a caption. It creates a description of what's in this actual graph because then we're able to ask questions, search, use that information in other downstream processes. So there's an enormous part of our platform spends time focusing on being able to pull out accurately, getting this context that you're going to need to build your applications on top of. All right. So that's step one. We've got all of our data. Let's go. And now we're going to move over to Agent Composer. So if I click on New Agent, and I'm going to give it a name here. And it's obviously very hard to type when all of you are watching. So if you would turn away, that would be helpful. All right. So now, give it a name. We have the configurations. Douwe went through the three different configurations. Let me just review them really quickly. We have templates. So we've already built out workflows. Our engineers have already figured out here's some good workflows for if you want to do agentic search, or if you want fast search or deep research that you can go ahead and start with as a starting point. There's also the blank canvas on the far right side. So this is your power users can go ahead and take together the components. They can put them together. You can make graphs, subgraphs. There's a lot of complexity that you can do there. But I'm going to start here with our middle option. And we're going to all right, so I've given it the prompt, and now we need to link it with data stores. I think one of the things I can link it with one of the data stores. I could link it with multiple data stores if I wanted to as well. So this is kind of one of the pieces, as Douwe mentioned, we have kind of infinite ability to connect to all of the data within your organization. So let's go ahead and create the agent. And again, the prompt I gave it was a material science agent. So I told it kind of the rough domain we were in. And then for this demonstration, I asked it to be Eli 5. Explain it like I'm 5. So it's going to take all these really technical concepts and explain it very simply. And I don't think a customer is actually using this in production, but it's a very easy way to kind of demonstrate how we can use AI along with this. So let's go ahead and it's ready to go. Let's ask it to kind of summarize what we know about. That first article was about quantum magnets. So I just used that as inspiration here to do that. Now, once we give it a query, you'll see there's some things happening. There's a workflow progress that I can click into where I can see what is the thinking and reasoning that's going on. And I can follow this step by step where it's thinking, it's searching all of those materials, thinking some more. This is that agentic part where it plans, then rethinks that. It's completed here. Let's go ahead and take a look at that answer. And now you can see these explanations, and I like them because look how simple they are, right? Like what makes them quantum? Very simple, plain words. So it's a great example of how we can use AI to work with that context that you have. If you're like not sure about that material, if you're like, I want to follow up, I want to double check what's going on there, this is where attribution is built into the platform. So for any of these citations, we can go back, see the original source documentation. So this becomes very important kind of when we're working with customers that need to make sure that there's entire accuracy with this. So that's one. I got a little bit more sophisticated question I want to do. This was that graph that I showed you earlier actually had these. I'm not even going to try to say the word, the splitting in temperatures, because I wanted to show you another aspect of what we can do. And again, if I want to, I can always dive into kind of seeing exactly what's going on. This is a very quick query because I'm asking for a little bit of factual information. And this factual information is actually found in the graph. So I think this is super cool that we're able to kind of use that information very easily inside of here. Now, I showed you I got to pick ahead of time, so we had an example where I knew there would be an answer, but sometimes there isn't an answer. So this is where, if that happens, your users could say, hey, you know, this this wasn't helpful. You know, there are better there's better docs out there that cover this. And your users can give the feedback. And this is part of when you move to production, you want to continually learn from your users out there. And so we have an entire feedback loop inside here. We have an evaluation loop. So that way we can always understand exactly what's happening with customers. Oh, did I click on that or not? And so what that allows us to do is take a look at that information, collect that, and then I'll show you in a slide later how we can start to use that to even optimize the application as well. Now, this is moving a little bit too slow for me, so I'm going to jump ahead because I got another thing I want to show you with this agent is now that we've built this out, maybe we want to go change some of the settings that are in the agent. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go to this edit view. You can see there's something coming up. The edit view. Dow showed this earlier. This is kind of the canvas that we have where we can start to drag and drop pieces. We can create our agents, our kind of workflows along this way. This was that very simple one that we created from the beginning. Now, one of the things we might want to do is I want to change some of those settings that I had earlier. Well, I can click on configure here. And I can go and change some of the search settings. Maybe I wanted to affect lexical or semantic or affect how the re-ranking was being done for the queries. We have that capability to kind of configure and tune all the different components that we have inside the platform. Now, and I know we're going to get questions because this is often one of the biggest things people ask is like, well, what are the tools that you have inside your platform? You've talked about tools. Well, if we want to add other tools, it's very easy to. You can see here, there's a long list of tools that we can add, whether it's code execution, whether I want to work with structured data. I want to set up an MCP connection, a webhook. All of these pieces are available easily where we can kind of add these into the platform. So if I want to, for example, add web search, I can add web search. I'm going to go ahead and save and continue it. And then now that I've done this, I could go ahead and ask it to do a web search. And let's see if there's anything new that's happened this year on quantum magnets. And I always like to see what's going on behind the scenes. We can see here it's doing a web search step where it's looking for new developments. You can see here the raw pieces of the information that it's bringing back. But once it comes back, it goes through the AI and we can read exactly kind of what is the information bringing back, even look at exactly what is that link there that it used, in this case, a web article to do that. So that was your 101, really quick introduction to being able to use Agent Composer, where we worked with our data, we used the prompt to build an agent, we started modifying it with tools to do that. Now that was a very kind of basic starter agent. Some of our customers have built more complex agents that I wanted to share as well. One of these is for technical support, where we want to combine unstructured information. So you can think here, all the technical docs you have, but we have customer support use cases already inside of our databases. And we want to be able to ask questions on those. And so here's an example of a query in this customer support where somebody's asking a question. And what I want to highlight to you is the vast amount of tools we have where we're pulling from unstructured information to help solve the question. But within the same answer, we bring it, we synthesize that together is information from the structured data. In this case, kind of that support ticket database, we can bring it back for. We could even build more complex works case flows on top of this where we could send this over and automatically create a Jira ticket. One of my colleagues is working with a company doing electric vehicles, and his workflow, so I kind of grabbed that for this demo here, takes a few more steps where he's taken advantage of not only the structured data that we've done, but the ability to, for example, generate bar charts, generate images. We have a whole set of tools that you can use with a lot of flexibility. And so now when he provides a response, he's able to provide kind of the detailed tables, include visualizations, include maps, right? Map that out to recommended actions as well. So you can see how we can bring these things together to really start solving very complex problems that work across all the different data that you have inside of your enterprise. Now, I want to end with one of the kind of my favorite ones here, which is device log analysis. Now, device log analysis works with semi-structured data. Now, I showed you earlier unstructured data like PDFs. You have structured data, things that sit inside databases like that ticket data. But every enterprise has all of this semi-structured, all of this log data. And for certain problems, when you need to go and look through it, it's a lot of data to work through to be able to identify it. Especially for some types of engineering work where you have to go through there, look for relationships to identify why did something fail? What was the root cause of this? And so this is something where our customers came to us and we've worked with them hand in hand to build an application to help do root cause analysis. And this is something that engineers were spending many hours doing, going painfully through all of these logs, looking for the relationships. But through the tools that we have inside of our environment for retrieving it, along with taking advantage of AI, and as I'll show you here, a multi-agent approaches, we're able to solve these problems much quicker for those engineers, saving a dramatic amount of time like that. So I'm going to just give you a quick taste of this. Like I said, it's one of the most popular kind of use cases nowadays we're getting with our customers. So let me jump into the platform here, and I'm going to grab a log file, bring it in. Now, so we're going to start with some data, in this case, a log file. I think one of the important things when we're thinking about something like log analysis is your engineers have information. They have documents for how to solve this problem. They have troubleshooting steps in their head. So one of the things we want to do is to be able to bring those debugging rules into play as well. So that's often part of the process is we sit down with those engineers, have an interview to figure out what is their local knowledge that they have. So let's go ahead and grab that information. Now let's ask it to, so I've asked it now to do an analysis on the failure. Now this is a multi-agent system. You'll see some of the steps that go through here where it's going to first start by looking at all the data, figuring out how best to parse it. How should we understand it? How should we find the relevant information inside the files? And you can see it's already analyzed and seen how many errors and how many warnings there are. For the users, it helps identify these quickly in the file so you can kind of quickly scan the file as it's working and see where the errors are. But once it has an understanding of the files, the next piece is it starts that root cause analysis. And here you can see there's trajectories. We can watch exactly how things are working. There's even multiple hypotheses. Just like if you gave the same problem to two different engineers, they might both think about it a little bit differently. Well, same thing with the agents as well. There we go. This is the graphs I like. So let me kind of fast forward to one that's already done here. And what this has done is now given us a summary of what is our root cause analysis. What are the issues that we have? But it also gives us a much more detailed diagram of exactly why it thinks things went wrong. So that way your engineers can not only look at the summary, but just double check, make sure things align. Maybe there's some pieces in there that they need to change their systems, redesign their systems based on the error. Included in this is we can generate artifacts. So you can see there's nice visual plots here to help explain the text, put that together to kind of tell nice coherent stories for exactly where things went wrong, like that. So this is one of my favorite applications like that. Now, one of the things I kind of want to end with here, I know Dow showed it earlier, is if you want to try these demos out, you can go to our platform under demo.contextual.ai. Whether it's the Rocket demo, my quick material science agent is out there as well. And I know John's going to share some information about how you can kind of sign up, start bringing your data in as well into this. Now, I know there's always questions, like I can only show so much in the demo. I just want to reiterate kind of we're an enterprise platform. So I've shown a couple of data sources here. There's a lot of different data sources that we work with. For example, schematics are complex data sources we work with. Being able to connect to other applications, ingest their information right back to them is part of what we do. There's a whole layer for just enterprise compatibility around security and governance. So we have RBAC integrated into our platform. Other tools like Model Armor, so we can check those prompts, those queries that come in. Were they inappropriate? If so, we could flag them, get them removed as well. Beyond that, there's a whole set of tools around Agent Composer. I've kind of touched on them a little bit. We have the documentation over at the docs.contextual that has a lot more detail, especially for the developer types that want to get in and look and see exactly what the APIs look like around those pieces. And, the idea here is there's a lot of different industries that we're going to be able to help save time, save energy, being able to build these applications like that. Now, I think I teased one thing. I didn't show it in the platform, but I do want to highlight this is something that we have kind of building out where as we collect all of that feedback that I showed you earlier, we have tools that as that feedback grows, we can actually use that information, use that feedback from your users to automatically optimize the application, to change the settings, to change the prompts, to actually improve the performance of this. And so this kind of continual improvement, continual learning is something that I'm really excited about as well. All right. Okay, Dow, it's your turn. I've had fun talking about this.
Perfect. Thank you, Raj. That was really great. Um, so I think what Raj really showed you is the power of Agent Composer, right? So it's designed to give you an unfair advantage for doing complex work, but doing it much more quickly than you would normally do if you had to do this yourself or manually. So focusing on industries like semiconductors, aerospace, manufacturing, where you really have these difficult problems where general purpose AI just doesn't cut it. That's where we come in and can really help you accelerate those workflows and help you save a lot of time. So to give you some very concrete examples of what that could look like, we've been working very closely with Qualcomm on automating a lot of their customer engineering tasks. So tens of thousands of annual support cases are covered by our system here. Thousands of customer engineers are using this system basically every day. It sits on top of huge numbers of technical, very complex technical documents. And what Qualcomm has really appreciated here is the technical depth and the level of specialization that we were able to bring to this solution, where the accuracy is just much better than what you could get with alternative systems. So this also powers part of their website. It's something they put in front of their own customers. It's something we're very proud of, and where I think we have been able to do something quite special. Another nice example is Advantest. If you haven't heard of them, they're the largest manufacturer of semiconductor testing equipment in the world. We've been able to work with them on test program creation. So how do you build and design these test programs for these machines to do what they do? And we've seen more than 100 times faster test program creation using these agents. Thousands of their employees and customers are enabled on the platform. Again, very large volume of documents ingested and very complex documents where what they've seen is really a meaningful time saving across all the different tasks that they want to leverage AI for, and especially with a focus on high value use cases, which is really our main focus as a company. And maybe finally, ShipBob. So this is a slightly different sector, but it's a nice example of a general knowledge management system where they have a lot of internal questions that need to be handled. We've helped them achieve over 60x faster issue resolution, 500 employees enabled on this system, and 10,000 hours saved annually just from having this system deployed on top of their knowledge bases. So we've really helped the entire company there move faster, and they really appreciate the speed gains that they get from working with our AI systems. So that's just a small set of examples. Hopefully, those are illustrative, and I think Raj's examples hopefully kind of trigger the imagination, and we'd be happy to talk with you if you have any ideas or questions. But overall, as you can see on this slide, we are working with some really household names across different domains in technology, manufacturing, services. You probably recognize a bunch of these companies here. And yeah, we'd love to work with you as well if you have anything that you think we can be of help with. So with that, my sort of call to action at the end of this is there are two ways for you to get started. The first way is for you to sign up to get an account. You can try it yourself. We'd of course be happy to help you get set up on that. If you have any questions, if you would like to have a free consultation with one of our AI experts, that's the QR code on the right here. We'd love to talk to you and help figure out if we can help you solve your most valuable problems. So our website is contextual.ai, and with that, I will, I think, hand it over to John to coordinate the QA session.
Awesome. And just a pro tip for everyone, if you use your work email address, you'll get $50 in free credit. So 25 is the standard, but with work email, you'll get that extra $25 in free credit. So we've got a lot of great questions coming in. If folks do have to drop early, just a couple of quick reminders. We will send that recording out tomorrow, as well as do take the survey when today's event ends or you exit. That just helps us improve the content for future webinars and events. And great, we've got some awesome questions that have come in, so I'll try to direct these as best I can. One second. So I think you hit on this a little bit, Raj, but maybe, and feel free to share slides as needed, but Yuri was asking, kind of what is the governance and guardrails and controls? Obviously, within the enterprise, privacy and data security is paramount.
Yeah, there's a long list of kind of controls, whether you're thinking about traditional security, like I went RBAC, for example, as well as privacy pieces where around, for example, data stores, there's controls about who gets to see what data stores, what agents kind of work along the way there. So there's a whole host of kind of pieces like that, as well as what is the deployment method that we'll use? Will you use our multi-tenant instance that's on the public cloud, or would you want this installed inside of your firewall so then your data never leaves behind your system? So a lot of flexibility. Happy to have a discussion on that.
This one, Dow, might be a good one for you. Iterative context optimization looks like tools usage. Does that mean a good RAG system sits on top of AI sub-agents? So maybe talk about kind of where RAG is today and where we're heading with context engineering and more agentic systems.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I sort of hinted at it during my context engineering primer, right? What RAG used to be has been moving. So modern RAG systems are very different from the original RAG where you had a vector database with some embeddings and you wouldn't do anything else. So in these much more agentic systems, RAG is just one of the tools. So retrieval is one of the tools that you would have access to. That could be a multi-agent system. So there could be sub-agents. There don't have to be sub-agents necessarily. But yeah, what we're seeing across the board is that an enterprise has complex data sort of all over the place in different data sources. And now you need to expose that data to the system so that you can get the right context into the language model. So you do that through tool use. Yeah, there's the hard part here in many cases is still the retrieval and the ingestion of the data so that you can do very high quality retrieval in the first place.
Great. Raj, I'm going to push this one over to you. It came up while you were showing the data store. So someone asked, how does it find or know about the databases that are available? So maybe you can explain about what the data stores are and how the data gets in there and and kind of what's going
Yeah,
on?
so the one on the one piece is we have simplified connectors that help make it very easy to kind of set up with databases as one piece. Another one is for common databases, think like Redshift, for example. We have connectors in our enterprise platform to be able to configure to that. And then finally, there's always the APIs. If people have kind of anything that is way out of the ordinary where we might not have a connector, we can always use our APIs to be able to ingest as well.
Great. I'm going to stick with you, Raj, for a couple of quick ones.
Yeah,
Someone asked, can this be used through other UI form factors such as Slack or Microsoft Teams?
abs absolutely. So I should have mentioned that early on. Like I showed the UI doing queries. We have many customers that will kind of put contextual within their own UI. So Dow mentioned Qualcomm. If you go to the public website for Qualcomm, you'll see that contextual is actually powering their technical search on the back end. We also even have example open source UIs in our GitHub repo that you can use as a starting point as well.
Great. Another person asked around kind of report generation. So could they use this to kind of create repeatable templates and generate those in a much more simplistic way?
Absolutely. It's one of the other demos I show for kind of our some of our financial services where people have to draft reports on a regular basis. What we can do is combine the information that we have in data stores with the ability to kind of use prompts as well, so to help make those kind of draft reports on a regular basis, whether fully automated, human in the loop. If we want to push them out into teams, for example, we could have reports that automatically do that or get emailed as well. So there's a lot of possibilities with these workflows.
Okay, great. And yeah, and feel free to drop other questions in the Q&A pane, folks, just so that we can catch those. I see a few things coming in on the chat. So it just helps us prioritize those questions if they come in on the Q&A pane. Tom is asking if, healthcare would be an industry that would fit. It's not rocket science, but maybe Dow, you can kind of talk about that. Which industries are the best fit for contextual AI, and is this something for marketers like myself, or is it, kind of where should they focus?
Yeah, so it's a general purpose system. You can use it for anything, but where you'll see the biggest lift compared to other solutions is really for complex domains, right? So I do think healthcare is actually a great example there, where you're very sensitive around your accuracy, right? It can literally save lives, getting the right answer or not making a mistake. And you very often care about attribution there, so making sure that the information you have is actually correct and based on some ground truth. You're sensitive around intellectual property in many cases. So it's a nice example, similar to semiconductors or other kind of engineering disciplines, where you have these properties that just mean that standard out-of-the-box AI often is not good enough yet. And that's where we come in to really make that possible.
Yeah, and for folks that are asking, if they're interested in their industry, specifically, healthcare or other industries, I do recommend just booking a consultation or a demo with the team, and we can get into more depth over a call than we can do here in the webinar. So if you are interested in a specific industry like healthcare or another industry, just grab a quick consultation in 30 minutes. We'll be able to walk you through what that might look like and what we've done with other companies. We didn't hit on this in a deep way, Dow, and I'm going to turn this one over to you. Does the platform have flexibility to choose different reasoning models, and kind of what's the perspective on that?
Yeah, so we offer all the frontier models as reasoning models. So a lot of our components, you can use our own models as well, but we are language model agnostic. In fact, I think that's one of the things that is quite unique about our platform is if you're using a hyperscaler, you're often locked into a particular language model that you have to work with. In our case, we are language model agnostic. If you have something else that you would like us to use, we can add it very quickly too. So for the steps that you take in the Agent Composer, you can configure any generative model that you like.
Nice. And this one to you, Raj. We had a couple of questions. Are we supporting MCP integrations? We went by that pretty quickly.
Absolutely. So we have kind of MCP built into the platform as if you want to use contextual platform as a source, but we also have MCP integrated into the workflows so we can pull from other sources as well as right back to that. So yes.
Great. Well, we got through a lot of the questions. I know there are a couple questions that we didn't get answered, so we will do our best to follow up via email for those questions if your question did not get answered live. And again, everyone, feel free to sign up for that free account. I'm going to give Raj one last question. I'm going to put him on the spot. Raj, when they sign up for the free account, and feel free to share your screen, what will be in the free account versus the enterprise account, and kind of help me understand how is that split apart?
Yes. So I think one of the pieces that we've added into the free accounts, so I'm going to quickly trying to share my screen here,
Putting Raj on the
is
spot.
exactly. I think one of the nice things about the free accounts is we've added these data stores automatically that get started in your account. So that way you can go ahead and just start chatting right away, getting a feel for how we answer questions, how you could set up agentic search, how attribution works right away on some kind of domains that you like by yourself. I think the other big piece between this and the enterprise is some of the functionality is available on the enterprise feature. So we talked about, for example, the templates that are created if you want the deep research template, that's on more on the enterprise side as well.
Okay. If there's any questions, you guys can always reach us at info@contextual.ai or reach out through our website. I will say when you do log into your account and get your free credit, one thing to note is it's a little bit different because we're all about connecting your data to AI. So you're going to need to connect that data store. You're going to need to bring in AI, bring in some data before you're going to get those really great answers. And so just keep that in mind. It's a little bit different than if you sign up for ChatGPT or Claude or another general purpose tool that you do need that data connected. So it's one place I do see people trip up a little bit just because it is a different paradigm with our platform. So awesome. Well, we've gotten through, I think, everything we're going to get through today. So I'll let Douwe have the final word and kind of thank everyone. And do look out for us at upcoming webinars. We'll have several webinars in March, as well as we'll be at the NVIDIA GTC conference in March. So if you're going to be at GTC, look for us there. And we look forward to connecting with all of you and learning about your projects and what you're trying to build. So Douwe, you have the final word.
Final word. Thank you, John. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this webinar. We'd love to talk to you if there's anything we can do for you. So thank you for your time and attention.